Good morning. Yes, I flipped the script on a cliche title of a legendary Metallica album when Metallica was interested in, you know, building legendary music. How you guys doing? So, important times that we live in as such. Um, And isn't it funny? Like, you flip that script, you start talking about religious politicians, and all of a sudden, life makes sense, right? Just a sweep, just a PM to an MP. And what's hysterical is that that's what you get in a parliamentary system. You get MPs. They call them MPs. I forget what it stands for. That's basically your congressman, and then you get your PM, your prime minister, which is not like the president. It's more like the Speaker of the House, right? The prime minister is, if our government was literally just the House of Representatives, the Speaker of the House would become the Prime Minister, or the title would be equivalent to Prime Minister, right? And so that's your Prime Minister. Your Speaker of the House would be your pastor of Muppets. And so the Muppet is what? It's a puppet with a soul. It's a puppet with a soul, right? That's the idea. It's just like you are manipulating someone. They're not an NPC. You're manipulating someone's personality. And that's what you're effing doing. You're manipulating someone via their personality. You know how their behavior is, what their thinking is like, and so on and so forth. And you're not dictating how they feel. You're not dictating even how they think. But you've got a beat on it, and you know how to skew their perception of reality, right? This is neuromancy, right? This is psy-war in that respect. And the psychological operations only work on the willingly ignorant, which unfortunately, it takes more than just warnings from people like me to articulate, to properly demonstrate to you that there is this manipulation going on, because they're still in the throes of thinking it's their thing, right? And it's just their education system and all, right? And it's just like that education system may have been given to them by, a covert communist or or some sort of naive capitalist. And I'm going to biasly phrase it that way because I look at the principle of capitalism and I believe in it. Now, if we genuinely, it's very hard to do things on your own anywhere within jurisdictions, right? And then it's the question of, do you truly need to be on your own? Is the social course of things truly that unbearable, right? One could argue that 5 years ago, yeah, it let me out of fucking society, right? And we did a societal collapse. Like we went through a small societal collapse, especially because look at the culture of California. It's, the the Hollywood culture of California, the media entertainment complex culture of California is completely decimated. Nobody, nobody likes them anymore, right? The red carpet is a small affair. It's not covered the same way anymore, right? Like, if you flip on a news network, like I remember, like every week I'd be watching CNN. They care more about making sure they fit in a piece for Jay-Z and Beyonce or whatever than they would any other real issues, because they were lying to you about the existence of issues. They would give a lip service to the underlying issues that communists wanted to argue for, which is like welfare-based issues, racial politics-based issues, and so on and so forth. Anything that is based on looking at the deterministic impossibility of upscale economic progress. And this is part of why I'm reading Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. I'm so told very much so how important this book is. And I've just read chapter 1 last night. And so he still hasn't gone into the rules yet. The preface was kind of talking about the grievances establishing the book. And then the first chapter is then painting the picture of America to justify and rationalize the propositions he will be making in the book. Will chapter 2 actually get to the fucking rules themselves? We'll see. We'll see, right? We'll see how that goes. I mean, obviously he is trying to use some more cunning and wittier thinking to give the radical the ideas, because we're talking about how he's like, he used the Chicago 7 as his demonstration, right? And I agreed with him about how fruitless the Chicago 7's efforts were, where nobody had the ability to respond to the judge over one guy's expression, right? Because silence is consent. And so the judge can take it that, okay, you're the one who just spoke up, right? Because he's declaring court, right? He opens court right there in the lobby. This is his authority. He can do that under certain emergency circumstances, the way things are going down. The judge can do that. Because, he carries the office with him. He doesn't have to be in a building, in a room. He just has to have all of the elements available, and perhaps the space to delineate the judge's space versus the mob's space, right? And then it's a question of, do you have the mob under control? Don't step out there if there's so many fucking guys and you've only got like one dude with a gun, who's licensed to kill. You're not gonna succeed. You're not gonna win. Being judicious, especially if you have to make the ballsy decision of siding against somebody. So anyway, this is part of, this is part and parcel of the issues on the right. Yeah, I've been talking about the left, but, pastor of Muppets, that idea is, doesn't, you don't feel that for talking about the left, because the left doesn't, like the left, there are plenty of Christians that are woke even, right? Not all of them are communists. Or, I'm sorry, not all of them are atheists. They may be communists, right? But they're quiet about it. They don't mix their religion with it at all, because these are Christians that are completely tolerant of things that are secular and other such things, and they probably would fucking hang out with a goddamn Satanist, just standing in oh no, personally, none of that's for me. We love Jesus in this house, but America or something. I don't know. I don't know exactly how they rationalize it, because I was saying for many, many years before fucking woke came around, it's just dude, why are you worried about gay marriage thing? Just you don't have to get married in their church. You can establish a Church of the Rainbow. Well, a bunch of fucking people actually did that. They didn't. Well, what they did was that they had a hostile takeover of certain churches and made them rainbonic. Plus they had pastors in position for a long time. But despite these details, no, fact of the matter is, but the fact of the matter is that this is a bigger deal. We're beginning to see the culmination of what was done many years ago. Because in Trump's first administration, he set all sorts of measures and went through making all sorts of revelation of who are good guys, who are bad guys, in certain senses, right? The IRS scandal with the targeting of all, basically the conservative base with tax discrimination, right? And it wasn't income-based tax discrimination. It was based on their race, their creed, their religion. It was an overt civil, that could be, I suppose, a proper civil rights violation in that sense, because of these other discriminatory factors. I mean, it's all sorts of things, right? So there's been a free speech empowerment given to Christians through new angles, right? There's more leniency within the church, right? Because there isn't really a First Amendment justification, when you really understand what the First Amendment's intentions are, of saying that you can't make a political deal of what's going on, right? And so some churches have made bold decisions, possibly to alienate their crowds, or perhaps it's just reflecting what the congregation feels, is that now you've got various pastors and ministers and priests and such that can, if they so choose, if so willing, of the religious body politic of theirs, to be like, yeah, Trump's the best. Right? They can start speaking at least their political opinion, but which is going to be which people aren't going to like to hear, because, well, the left is going to have to relearn, if the left doesn't have enough fucking patience to listen to anybody that I would tell them to listen to or hear. You really got to sit down and actually listen to this lecture, listen to this podcast, listen how they cite sources. You pay close enough attention, you can beat any Christian in their ill-conceived arguments. right? Don't rely on me, because you're probably not going to like the way that I argue it, but the point is that I can argue it where you can't. But I'm still coming from a place that is more interested in specific kinds of changes to what we call capitalism, to what I think would be the right way that capitalism is to work. But unfortunately, you can't have a wholly capitalist society the manner in which society cares for itself. Society is practically keeping itself sick, crazy, and deferred, or whatever the word would be for physically incapable to work, crippled or whatever. Like they're keeping themselves in all the low productivity states, keeping themselves there. To complain about like money or whatever, and then you're the bad guy if you say, hold on, I've discovered something to cure your ailment so you can get back to earning money and having a good and decent life by the time you recover, right? At that point, like, the welfare state sounds fucking great if people were fucking great. If the sick person wants to get better. I've invested $100 that I'm spending today at a goddamn massage therapist as part of me searching for the real answers to fixing what is wrong with the nerves. Why do my nerves get pinched so fucking easily from more or less laying down on my back trying to fucking sleep or something, or when I'm tensing up like when I play guitar, or like, why am I tensing up? Maybe the problem is that I shouldn't be tensing up. Like, I'm going to talk to this guy because he's not just some massage parlor, he's not like a spiritualist. Like, he's got a PhD, so I'm going to see what this PhD has to say. I don't know if he's a good PhD or not. I didn't even check. But I'm spending $100 for a massage. The fact that he's a PhD means I'm very interested in picking his brain. So there's a brain pick that's more indicative of why I chose him, right? I mean, I wanted to guarantee I was getting a guy, because I just want hands with the power to do the thing. I don't need the lady's delicate touch today. Unless, of course, I had a lady who was so goddamn good at what she did that I wouldn't have to think about spending my money on a massage therapist, man or woman. Right? And, this is what I've been going through for 3.5 fucking years of personal development, right? Losing the weight, changing the diet. I had to deal with that fucking kidney stone, which I don't know how long that had been building up, but I definitely know that but it probably wasn't that long, because I was overdoing it with salt, and in general I was eating so much acidic food on top of that. Plus I had been taking care of a lot of anger, right? And the exercise was about a lot of anger, angry at the world and angry at myself, and spiritually, anger and kidney stones are synonymous to each other. So we don't live in the pagan times where we practice eugenics. Unfortunately, we have been living in the atheist times in which we practice eugenics. Going all the way back to... Isn't it funny how scientific, secular to atheist eugenics was established in the same century that communism was established? That's not a fucking accident. And that's part of the reason why I'm capitalist, is because they aren't, there isn't a eugenicist's underlying ideology. There's many corporations that side with communism and socialism and do that kind of eugenic stuff. They have to, because their economic model doesn't work unless there's enough sufficient working members of the population, and you can't force them to work, but you're already dealing with a population that is killing itself, right? And that's what we did in 2020. They said, all right, you insist on killing yourself, we're going to give you everything you need to wind up dead. And everybody has been killing themselves slowly, who keeps embracing all that shit. And we're trying to put an end to that program, and it is good that the agents in government now, people like Kennedy and Trump and whatnot, are making the necessary acknowledgments of what must be, right? They're acknowledging, they're vindicating. Those have been talking about it for forever. It is well past due. There's very few people that fucking understand. The reason why we get away with the change is because they understand it so poorly that through the discovery process, fighting us doing it, they're learning the truth. In fact, everything has been about learning the truth, in effect, when you're paying attention to the details. Right? It's cutting through the whole rigmarole of the thing, right? Forcing the enemy to fight for what they believe in on the merits of what they believe in, because we're playing for real. We're not just throwing rhetoric at each other till somebody is intimidated into changing the law. We're deconstructing and destroying the fictions. We're taking it gives us the position to stand on the principles of, here are the exploitations and the abuses, right? So all these leaders of Christendom, they're trying to get all these little souls to make it through life in an acceptable manner of progress and living and attitudes and mindsets, things of this nature, right? And some of those things can be steeped in deep amounts of ignorance, right? Like, how radically, pro-Israel can you become, that gives you a favorability towards the Bible if you don't know the difference and don't know your fucking self and haven't done any fucking shadow work. Have I gone in... I've gone in the wrong... How'd I come in the wrong entrance? Oh. No, I'm not in the right place. How do I do this? Alright, let me turn around. I think I pulled in too early. This doesn't look anything like what I'm supposed to do. Yeah, this is wrong. This is wrong. Okay, it's a little bit further down. Silly me. Alright. And so, you know, as long as we continue to develop the conversation, forge our wiser, more true and correct arguments, we come to a point where at the very least the other side learns enough to change on a fundamental level, seeing, wait, I'm not treating myself the best that I can be treating myself. And I think that that's really more the place that you start. If you want to change a Christian's attitude so that way they're not a person standing in threat to you, you got to convince them that they're not doing what's best for themselves in some semblance of their ideological framework, which means you have to know their shit like they do. And the only way you can do that is to know their Bible properly. That can be very difficult if you don't know yourself. If you don't know how your spiritual principle ought to be. You're gonna really struggle with that. Hey man, sorry I'm late. All right. Woo. Let's see. All right, guys. I got to get going. I think I made my point. And so carry accordingly and understand that it's all very, it's that whole informed field, your world, your Dasein, law of attraction, real law of attraction. It's mostly that. All right, I'll catch you later.